If you're looking for the most effective Diablo 4 build guide to get you through the early game and the first world boss, be it during the server slam or the full game, you're in the right place. Early on, you're given a bit of freedom to choose skills and refund them, so your investments might differ to how you play at the end game, or even when you've collected a few valuable legendary items. These builds will get you up to level 20 the fastest and give you the best shot at taking down the world boss, Ashava, even when underleveled. So check out the timestamps below if you're looking for help for a specific class. The builds I'm about to outline are up to level 20, don't include items, and are based around leveling fast and killing the world boss. Legendary items, if they drop, may encourage you to modify these builds to add some powerful effects. Speaking of powerful effects, the Nvidia 40 series cards will provide Diablo 4 DLSS3 technology, which means advanced AI will fill in the gaps between frames, giving your 2 and 4K experiences buttery smooth finishes. Ray tracing is coming at a later date, so thanks to Nvidia. If you want to win yourself a copy of Diablo 4, stick around until the end of the video. Hey guys, Dan from the future here. We just got our hands on some of the changes we can expect in this server slam and release. It seems like a lot of skills like Upheaval, Chain Lightning, Hydra, and Bone Splinters, to name a few, received a nerf that just brings them closer to the other skills. These builds are still top of the range, but it's a lot closer now. If you receive any legendary effects that focus around a core skill, be sure to switch to that and you'll have more power. Thank you. First up is the Sorcerer. Along with the Necromancer, the Sorcerer has a very easy leveling experience. Being ranged has a lot to do with that, but overall, it puts out so much damage that you rarely find yourself in positions where you can be punished. There's a very clear winner when it comes to leveling, so let me run through it now. In terms of basic skills, you can pick up Arc Lash for a decent melee mob clear option. However, though many seem to dislike Spark, I find it very effective at keeping range and adding damage while your mana regenerates. Chill doesn't apply to the world boss and doesn't seem very effective against dungeon bosses, so Frostbolt isn't as definitive a choice as many people think. Whereas Spark will do increased damage if the target is alone with Enhanced Spark, or AoE if not. It also gives you up to 10% increased crit chance thanks to Glinting Spark, and crit is important to this build. Though any basic skill will do, you can't really go wrong with the Sorcerer. When it comes to core skills, even though it was nerfed, Chain Lightning is still the king. Max it out as it will do a high amount of damage to waves of enemies, as well as single targets with greater Chain Lightning. It also gets an increased crit chance with every bounce with Enhanced Lightning. To reiterate, greater Chain Lightning lets it bounce off you, hitting single enemies multiple times, which is great for groups and bosses. This will be your primary damage dealer until Hydra. Next, pick up Teleport. It's the ultimate movement ability. It breaks CC, it gets you anywhere on the screen and therefore into and out of combat. It's perfect for the world boss and for moving around the map. 1 point is all you need. Then we have Frost Nova. It will give you some breathing room by freezing mobs around you. 1 point is all you need. Then another defensive spell to offset your fragile body, Ice Armor. It gives you another way to avoid damage as it gives you 6 seconds of barrier. Between Teleport, Ice Armor, and Frost Nova, you should be able to get through any problem. Now we max out Hydra. Hail Hydra, because if you can't stand and kill something, Hydras will get it done while you kite the enemy. Hydras are unkillable for the duration and constantly spit out damage. With your high critical strike chance, Invoked Hydra will give your Hydras an increased rate too. While healthy, they'll have an extra head with Enhanced Hydra, and with your 3 defensive skills, that won't be a problem. Especially with Align the Elements. It gives you damage reduction against elites, which means elite mobs, bosses including the world boss, and PvP including player characters. You'll have up to a 50% flat damage reduction if you don't take damage for 20 seconds, slowly recharging back up to 50% at a 5% a second rate. This is huge for 1 point. And that's the build. You want to Chain Lightning as much as you can while your Hydras are out, and Frost Nova anything that comes close. Teleport away and Ice Armor if things look dicey. Put Hydra as your enchantment effect as you'll be spamming mana with Chain Lightnings and Hydras, so getting an extra 5-headed one is a bonus. The others can be tempting, but Kruparian did some testing with Frost Nova's enchantment effect and it was far too low of a proc chance without getting a ton of lucky hit chance boosting effects. You could also get Chain Lightning as the enchantment, as extra procs of Chain Lightning can't hurt. Look for crit gear. Best of luck. The Barbarian is up next. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, the Barbarian has a rough start. Besides the Druid, this is the hardest leveling experience, so hopefully this guide will improve that for you. The basic skill you want to pick up is Frenzy. You're not going to have the best gear early on, so your basic skill choice may come down to what your best weapon is. If you have high crit and a strong two-handed blunt weapon, get Combat Bash for that guaranteed overpower, though most of the time either Flay or Frenzy will do. I opted for Frenzy as you'll get Fury faster this way thanks to Enhanced Fury, and most of your damage will be coming through your Thorns and your Upheavals, the latter requiring Fury, and it deals more damage the more you hit with your basics, so I pick up Upheaval next. You could opt for Hammer of the Ancients for single target, but I think in the current state of the game, Upheaval is superior in more situations since it has a bit of range, and against the world boss and dungeons, this is valuable. It has a chance to stun with Enhanced Upheaval, but with Ferocious Upheaval, dealing direct damage with the skill causes your next Upheaval to deal increased damage up to 80% at 10 stacks, which is why Frenzy works well with this build. Combat Bash is better when you have a lot of crit, but in most cases you won't. And then we want all the shouts because they give a lot of value for single points. The first being Challenging Shout, as it forces enemies to attack you with reduced damage, gives you extra life, which gives you a huge amount of thorns, which clears mobs like nobody's business. Rallying Cry gives you a way to break CC, move fast and generate more fury. It also works well with Challenging Shout, as dealing or taking direct damage gives you base life as Fortify, making you quite tanky. If that wasn't enough, War Cry increases your base damage, gives you more base damage and movement speed with the Berserk status, and gives you a huge amount of fortified life, which further increases your Thorns damage. Pick up Booming Voice to increase your shout's duration, and Raid Leader. It will give you and your allies a heal for every shout you have active on them, and yes, your shout affects your allies as well for a reduced duration, making you amazing in groups and especially in world boss encounters. Then let's pick up Leap to finish the build. Leap will help you get in and out of combat, useful in most situations considering your melee. It also lets you traverse the world faster, even letting you jump over obstacles. And that's it for the Barbarian. The leveling experience will be rough until you get your shouts, and even then, the clearing power of the Sorceress, the Necro, and even the Rogue will have you jealous. At least until you get to late game and your gear starts to matter more. All you need to do is leap in and ferociously swing at things until you can upheaval, and make sure your shouts are always active. Look for the best damage weapons and legendaries that you can. Best of luck. The Necromancer is up next. The basic skill you want to pick up is Bone Splinters. This is potentially the best basic skill in the game, and while leveling you only need 1 point in it. It functions like a shotgun. The closer you are to the target, the more splinters will hit and the more damage you'll do. With Enhanced Bone Splinters, this gives you a chance to fire additional projectiles when you have 50 or more essence, and with Acolyte's Bone Splinters, you'll get more crit chance for using it like a shotgun. This build will focus around crit, so keep this in mind. So we have our up close spirit generating ability. What about our spender? Well, that's why we max our Bone Spear. It does extremely high damage in a line, dealing even more damage with Enhanced Bone Spear, and getting an extra 5% crit chance with Paranormal Bone Spear. Critical Striking now has an additional benefit of giving the spear additional shards when destroyed, meaning that once it hits a wall or reaches its max range, it will break, sending shards back towards its casting point, making Bone Spear exceedingly effective at clearing out groups. So put points into the core tree until you can get Blood Mist and put 1 point into it. Blood Mist gives you an oh shit button. When you think you're going to take a bit too much damage or are crowd controlled, hit it to go fully immune and heal a small amount. This is useful against a world boss, as she will no doubt be one-shotting you if you get out of position. Now we put points into Bone Splinters to get it to 5, then 1 point into Unloving Energy in order to get to Imperfectly Balanced, which makes it so your Bone Spear costs 15% more essence but deals 30% more damage. A big boost, and when considering Bone Splinters does decent damage, you won't mind switching between the two of them. So what else do we need for the Necro? Well, don't hate me, but only passives. Bone Splinters and Spears is all you need. Grab Serotonin for a 1.5% critical strike chance for each 10 essence you have upon cast. So if you're not casting Bone Splinters, they'll not consume essence and have a 15% extra crit chance at 100 essence. Then with Compound Fracture, you'll do a little extra damage after critting 10 times. Max this out after 20 for a big bonus, and that's it for skills. You see, the Necro is very simple and exceedingly broken early game. You don't need much to clear rooms and bosses alike. Yes, that means you really don't even need your pets. You can choose to use your skeleton warriors, or you can choose to sacrifice them for an increased crit chance. This number here will be buffed by the time you play, and extra crit really does help this build. Then with the mages, you can choose to use them or take extra max essence, which boosts your crit chance thanks to the passive. Then with your golem, take the extra critical strike damage, because I don't need to mention this build works well with crit. And that's it for Necro. You don't need pets, they can help make the game feel a little easier in dungeons, but the world boss will eat them alive. You only need the 2 skills, and if you find any crit gear, all the better. Best of luck. The Druid is up next. Like the Sorcerer, any basic skill will do with the Druid, not because they do the job though, but because they all kind of suck. The Druid is quite frankly the most underpowered early game class. Just by looking at the damage numbers of their skills, you can see why. However, they have the most synergies and combinations between their skills, gear, and Paragon points that once fully built, they'll be a force to be reckoned with. I show this in my latest Druid Storming Werewolf build video below. I opted for Wind Shear for range. It deals a low amount of damage, but frankly, all Druid basics do. It generates Spirit, and with Enhanced Wind Shear, also has a chance to make your target vulnerable, so at least your friends and allies can take advantage, because you won't unless you get some stellar extra vulnerability damage gear. Fierce Wind Shear then increases your movement speed, which can help you stay out of trouble. Melee is a death sentence for the Druid against the world boss and some enemies, so I recommend against Pulverize. With the right legendaries, it can become insanely strong with its guaranteed overpower, however banking on getting specific legendaries as you level is unwise. Instead, let's go with Landslide. It deals decent damage at range and has a chance to immobilize them with Enhanced Landslide. Primal Landslide is also excellent against bosses, as you have a flat chance of getting Terror Motes, which guarantees a crit with 40% extra crit damage. Regular enemies simply needing to be hit while immobilized or stunned to grant a Terror Mote. Then we get 1 point into Cyclone Armor, as it gives us a way to knock back enemies, but most importantly, gives us some resistance to non-physical damage passively while activated, requiring us to do nothing. Next we pick up Vine Creeper. It'll passively do damage every so often by poisoning enemies, then when activated, it will immobilize everything on the screen, letting those landslides get a Terror Mote charge. Enhanced increases its immobilized duration, and Ferocious increases its poison duration, important for the passives coming up. Now we need to move further down the tree, so picking up Bloodhowl for the heal and enhance it for a lower cooldown, or opting for Earthen Bulwark for a barrier and enhance for Unstoppable, which is better against bosses, is the way to go. Now pick up a point in Trample. It's a great movement skill to get you in and out of trouble. Best of all, it makes you unstoppable, so it ignores all current and future CC for its duration. Finally, get 1 point into Neurotoxin to slow poison enemies by a small amount, so you can pick up 3 points in Envenom, which gives you 30% additional crit damage against poisoned targets. You'll have guaranteed crits from Landslide and poison from Vine Creeper, so these 3 skills work well together. You'll start by turning on Cyclone Armor, then you'll be casting your basic ability until you get enough spirit to cast powerful landslides. If you get in trouble, you can pop Vine Creeper to immobilize enemies and poison, so that your landslide will crit and deal extra damage to the target. You could also heal the damage off with Bloodhowl or prevent it with Earthen Bulwark. You could then use Trample to get out of the way of incoming attacks or move around the world more effectively. So that's it for the Druid. Seems like a theme here, but you're on the lookout for crit chance gear. Best of luck. Last but not least, the Rogue. The Rogue has the easiest time getting around the map and maneuvering around enemies. Early game, that's an extreme benefit, and particular types of players will very much enjoy their playstyle. The basic skill is to generate combo points and wait until your energy recharges. Because of this, I opted for a ranged attack, Forceful Arrow, though Blade Shift is good for melee focuses. With Enhanced Forceful Arrow, every third cast has a 15% crit chance, which is nice to have. Now for a core skill, Twisting Blade is the king. It deals a high amount of upfront damage as you lodge your blade into the target, but the kicker is that it deals damage again after a short time when the blade returns to you, hitting everything on the journey back, so naturally we need movement to make sure the blade hits as many targets as possible, as the enhanced and advanced versions give the return damage a boost and reduce the cooldown of your other skills for every enemy the blade passes through, giving your cooldown reliant movement and poison skills more uptime. Speaking of movement skills, grab Shadow Step first for the ability to blink to an enemy. It makes you unstoppable and teleport behind a target while increasing your movement speed for a short time. Enhanced makes it so the target has increased crit chance against it, and Disciplined reduces its cooldown when used on a target that hasn't been hit by it before. Overall, a great skill to use to spread that returning blade damage out, or great for starting a fight. Next movement skill is Dash. It just moves you forward fast, dealing damage in a line. Enhancing it increases the crit damage you deal to the targets hit by it, and yes, you're starting to see a theme of crit chance and damage. There's no need to explain it. Now we need to move on down to the imbuements tree, so put 2 points into Exploit for a 12% increased damage against healthy and injured enemies. Enemies are healthy when they're above 80% life and injured when they are below 35% life. Then pick up Poison Imbuement for a lot of extra damage, activate it, and your next 2 skills will poison targets. Its duration is increased with Enhanced Poison Imbuement, and with Blended, your critical strikes with poison imbued skills deal 30% increased poisoning damage, so naturally put the rest of your points into Precision Imbuement for a sweet 10% crit chance increase. You want to open fights by imbuing your weapons with poison, dashing in, twisting blade targets, then shadow stepping out and letting the blade kill stragglers on the way out. You need to learn how to position yourself correctly with this class, and it has a higher skill cap than the others if you want to maximize your damage. As both Dash and Shadow Strike have charges, you'll be able to move around the battlefield as you see fit, weaving in forceful arrows and refreshing your poison imbuements. And that's it for Rogue. I know I sound like a broken record, but for the early game, crit gear is the way to go. It seems that way with most of the top early game builds. Don't forget you can change your build around as you find legendary items and as the need arises in group settings. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to win yourself a copy of Diablo 4, be sure to check out the pinned comment below. Let me know what class you'll be choosing last and why. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, ciao friends.